Well, there goes another one. What is that? 3 years in a row, the Blue Jays miss out on their big elite bat that they want. And where else would Kyle Tucker go to hurt everybody in baseball except the Dodgers?
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network, your team every day.
Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. The wildcard round is here, and FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. So visit FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day. Just before we get going, I'm in a new studio. It might sound a little echoey. I haven't put everything up yet, so if you're hearing a little bit of echoes, it'll just be for hopefully this one while I get everything sorted out. But we're officially moved down into the new office space here for myself, which is a lot of fun. What's not a lot of fun is that Kyle Tucker has signed with the Dodgers. Talk about ruining baseball. Here's another instance. And yes, I've always said that I'm not a big component into that. It's getting harder and harder to not be on the side of this is ruining baseball. And it's hard to say that as a Blue Jays fan, because the Blue Jays spend big money. This sucks. If it was the Mets, it was the Mets. You know, because they maybe wanted a short-term deal worth a ton of money. Okay, fair enough. You know, test the market again at another point. Fair enough. The Blue Jays offered long-term for probably less money. Understandable. At the end of the day, I don't know why this wasn't more on everybody's radar. Like, were we seriously going to sit here and believe that the Dodgers weren't going to be in on the biggest fish in free agency? I think we were kidding ourselves. We were absolutely lost. And Carter, just before I kick things over to you, I put out a tweet the other day. Which team does Kyle Tucker choose? This is after about 200 votes from the people listening to the podcast that follow us on Twitter. So follow us on Twitter, Locked On Jays. 59% said the Blue Jays. 34% said the Mets. And 7% said the Dodgers. Throughout all of this, and I think what I'm learning every single year, and I have to continually learn it again and again and again, is the fact that you can't sit here and listen to rumors. You can't take everything, you have to take everything with an absolute grain of salt. This is frustrating. And it's not just frustrating about Kyle Tucker. And we're going to talk about how this affects Bo Bichette and whatever else. But to me, what an absolute slap in the face to Bo Bichette. Your team goes out and makes a push for the big fish, puts you on the back burner, and now the Blue Jays are sitting there floundering. Because now they have to go for Bo Bichette. But we'll get into that. Carter, I guess, how do you feel about Kyle Tucker, my man?
It's tough, man. It's 3 times now for 3 different players. Shohei Ohtani, Roki Sasaki, and now Kyle Tucker. Juan Soto is another one, but that wasn't Dodgers related. There's been a lot of players the Toronto Blue Jays have missed out on in recent history. This one for me, out of all of them, even Shohei Ohtani included, being on the plane at all, this was the one that I think I was the most bought in for. I truly thought that the Toronto Blue Jays were going to sign Kyle Tucker. And I mean, like, what's the saying? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me a third time, like, who's the shame on now? Got to get the shame somewhere. I guess it's on us again, as we have once again lost out on another big free agent. As for the ruining baseball stuff, I just want to know when the Dodgers run out of money. We don't know the contract as of right now because we just found out Kyle Tucker has signed about 5 minutes ago, 5 minutes before we started this podcast. We were waiting to see if he was going to sign today, and luckily we did wait because we were going to talk about all the possibilities of Kyle Tucker. But I'm just kind of kicking myself for letting the Dodgers kind of get kicked to the wayside because I truly believed it was the Toronto Blue Jays, then it was the Mets. I thought term and money would actually mean something to players, but believe it or not, I think the thing that runs true for every single baseball player, for every single athlete, is winning is the top tier. Winning is what every athlete strives for, and I think we're starting to see that time and time again as winning being one of the big things that attracts big free agents. For sure, there's other things as well. Maybe you want to live in LA compared to Toronto. We won't get into that too much, but I'm just kicking myself for dismissing the Dodgers. Like, we probably should have knew Kyle Tucker was going to all along.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to, I don't know. We're going to try to spin this, but to me, I don't know. It goes back to this entire offseason and why this deal wasn't done sooner, why it waited this long, what were they waiting for? And I thought, okay, maybe they waited this long because there's still a bidding war going on. Maybe the Mets, maybe the Dodgers, were still throwing money around, but everybody seemed to pretty much have their market set. As much as this sucks for the Blue Jays fans, and I think probably the worst case scenario, the Mets are also getting absolutely eaten alive. Their fans are going to absolutely torch the organization.
I got a live update on the contract. Jesse
Perfect.
Rogers has released the contract. I understand. And how do the Dodgers have this much money? It's truly incredible. But this is from Jesse Rogers live on the podcast. Kyle Tucker's deal with the Los Angeles Dodgers is for 4 years, $240 million, sources tell ESPN. He has an opt-out after the second year. If you're just talking about AAV, you're looking at $60 million, and that is something that is so hard for the Mets to compete with. They had $50 million. I thought that was ridiculous. The Toronto Blue Jays, an 8 to 10 year contract. They were never going to offer Kyle Tucker $60 million. And if they did, I probably wouldn't have been very happy with it. That is a ton of money to fork over for Kyle Tucker. But if you're the Los Angeles Dodgers, you're on route to build a dynasty. And does money really matter? If you're going to go on another World Series run, possibly win a third World Series in a row, you're going to have Kyle Tucker for at least 2 more seasons, along with Shohei Ohtani, along with Freddie Freeman, all these different players that you already have on your team, the starting rotation. You have Edwin Diaz now. I understand it, but man, it's tough to see the Dodgers continue to do this and it continue to pay off for them as well.
So everybody pencil in your calendars. The 2027 season will not happen. If you didn't believe it before, you damn better start believing
Kyle
it
Tucker
now.
has broke Brayden's brain. No more baseball anymore. Kyle Tucker's ruined the league.
No, that's where we're at.
That's
were there
crazy,
already.
though.
We were there already. And now this is just an extra nail in the coffin. No wonder why everybody wants a lockout. I get it. And I hate being the guy that sits here and has to say that a team is ruining baseball because they want to spend money. Every other team should want to spend money. This is baseball. Do you want your team to succeed? Do you not want your team to succeed? But at the end of the day, what else do you do, I guess? It has to be a lockout now. And I hate that. This is going to suck for us, Carter, because what are we going to talk about? And number 2, it's going to suck for the players. They're going to miss a season. Number 3, it's going to suck for the organizations because they're going to lose money. It's going to suck for MLB. It's going to suck for fans. It's going to suck for everybody. Lockouts suck. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend anymore that it's all going to be fixed and things are just going to happen. No, at the end of the day, this is a business. And I wouldn't turn down $60 million either. So how do you be mad at Kyle Tucker about this? We said 50. That's a $10 million difference per year. What are we supposed to say?
I'm going to be interested to see if there's deferrals in this deal as well. And that's why I was like before, we were talking about it just at the start of this episode when we didn't know what the contract was. I was a little bit dumbfounded. I'm like, well, I get winning matters, but you would think money would talk a little bit as well. And now you look at this contract, and I don't think anybody was beating that. We talked about Bo Bichette wanting $300 million. That was over 10 years. This is a 4-year contract. That's $60 million short of that. If you would have had a 5-year contract, in theory, that would be exactly what we're expecting to pay Bo Bichette. So if you can get Bo Bichette now for 10 years, $300 million, that looks unbelievable. That looks like an absolute steal. I'm not sure if that's going to happen after this Kyle Tucker contract. Again, these are different players. We believe, at least on this podcast, that Kyle Tucker is better than Bo Bichette. Each fan has their own opinion. You guys have the right to that. But I think we're going to see in these contracts that there is a clear discrepancy on how MLB teams view these two players. But we'll kind of leave Bo Bichette to the wayside, at least for this segment. But $240 million, I don't know if that means a lockout, but I know for a fact that means, how are the Pirates supposed to pay for a player like that? The Marlins, again, these teams do have, a lot of these teams do have owners that can spend in theory, but we're getting to the point now where the contracts are increasing at such a ridiculous rate that I feel like owners are going to have to put their foot down with the agreement expiring in 2026. kind of just makes sense. I'm hoping that there's not a lockout, but I feel like owners are not going to want to put up with this for too much longer.
No, we'd be naive to think that there isn't going to be a lockout. This is a guarantee for me that there's going to be a lockout. I will go on anywhere and I will say that. I will go right up to GM's faces and tell them straight up there will be a lockout to any player you want me to, because that's how certain I am, and this is absolutely nail in the coffin. But Carter, in saying all of that, it's time to talk about...
I want to just run one more thing by you. Say
Sure.
the Toronto Blue Jays offer Kyle Tucker this exact contract, the exact same AAV, the exact same term and everything. Like, how are you realistically reacting to this contract? Are you happy that Kyle Tucker's a Blue Jay? You obviously are to some expense, but how are you truly feeling if this was a Toronto Blue Jays contract rather than a Dodgers contract?
Yeah, it's getting to the point where money doesn't matter, Carter. So who cares? That's where I'm at. It's an egregious overpay. Well, no, it's not an egregious overpay. There is no overpaying in baseball. That's where we're at now. So you know what? You want a player that badly? Go and spend the money on him. That's what the Dodgers did. Is he worth $60 million pen to paper? Probably not. But what, me and you are going to sit here and say that?
Well, and there's also luxury tax involved as well. We were
Yeah.
talking about Kyle Tucker. If he signed for $40 million, it would be subsiding $80 million. Now he's at $60 for this season. So that's where I'm at. Like, the Dodgers clearly just have infinite money. Like, they have infinite money that they cannot lose. They cannot get rid of, which credit to them, which got to be a lot of fun to be a Dodgers fan right now. Like, you think, like, the way this is working out, you're actually playing a video game. And you're a GM of the Dodgers, and you just have literally every single player at your disposal. You play in one of the best cities in America. You play in a climate that's unbelievable. You have Japan on your side. You have all these players, this winning culture. It can't really get much better. As much as that is tough to say for probably every other fan in the MLB. 29 other fan bases. We'll look at the Dodgers right now, and it seems like it's the Dodgers versus everybody, and for good reason. So with Kyle Tucker, like $240 million is a lot of money, and maybe there has to be some luxury tax reworkings. It's already a ton of tax on top of what the contract is. Is that taxing them more going to stop it? At some point, it probably would, but I'm not sure if that's the actual fix. It's tough to see every other team miss out. Like, if you went to the Mets, I honestly would be okay with that. I would have been upset, would have been a little bit unhappy, whatever, but it would have been more manageable. Just looking at that lineup already. Now they had Diaz. They still have bullpen. There still is some questions. The starting rotation's probably the best in baseball. The lineup, easily the best in baseball. It's just getting very tough to compete. Very tough to see a team, even though they are in the NL. If you want to get to that ultimate goal of winning a World Series, you got to win 4 games against that team. It's getting tougher and tougher by the offseason.
Carter, we're talking luxury tax, and what is that? It's already 100 and some percent. Like, obviously it's not going to stop them. Obviously, there's no way to work this luxury tax that will stop them. This is why owners and everybody around the league, besides the players, want a salary cap. That's going to be the biggest argument. And at this point, I think that may be the only way. And even that, it's going to take so many years to implement. So we're in for a long, difficult road with, if a team is willing to spend like the Dodgers, they can go spend like the Dodgers. And good on you, I guess. Because there's nothing in the rules that can stop this. And you know what? Yeah, I'm sitting here and I'm pissed. But what are we going to say? How do you say this from a Blue Jays fan perspective of you should have gone and offered him $60 million over 4 years? Like, was that ever in your head that you'd offer Kyle Tucker $60 million, realistically, without knowing that this contract was there? I wouldn't.
I wouldn't even, again, if the Blue Jays signed this contract, I'd be happy that we had Kyle Tucker, but I would be like, that is an egregious contract. I don't care how good of a baseball player you are. And Kyle Tucker's a very good baseball player. He's probably a top 15 baseball player in the league if he's healthy, but you're paying a top 15 player in MLB like he's pretty much a top 5 player in terms of AAV, the contract value. $240 million is a lot of money, especially over 4 seasons. It's absolutely crazy, but we have talked about the Kyle Tucker impact and how that does impact the Jays, and now we got to talk about where the Blue Jays are going to pivot. Does the waiting on Kyle Tucker this long impact what their upside can be for the 2026 season? Does it impact some of the other signings that they could make in this offseason? Does it damage some of the relationships that they kind of have been working on, not only this offseason, but throughout a player's entire career? We will dive into that right after this short break.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The wildcard round is here, and FanDuel is the officially in playoff mode. Every game during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action. Because right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Make sure you guys go and take advantage of this. That is something that I have been doing every single game. I've hopped on and tried to get my boost for the day and use that, hopefully roll it over. So make sure you guys do go check that out. They can be same-game parlays as well, so make sure you guys hop on that train. I love the live same-game parlays where you actually wait until the game starts, see who's doing well, and then place your bets sort of accordingly. So make sure you guys do go and check that out. Again, you make your picks, then apply your profit boost to go after even bigger payouts while the playoffs get rolling. So visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day. Well, Carter, this is where we were going to be. We knew that if the Toronto Blue Jays didn't get Kyle Tucker, which was going to be the first domino, the big domino that falls, what is the plan B? What is next man up? Who do they go after? And we all know, I think, that that's Bo Bichette. But how much in your head has this long, drawn-out process of maybe not giving Bo Bichette not being target number one for the Toronto Blue Jays, how much does that impact him now wanting to sign with the Blue Jays?
I don't think it should impact Bo Bichette. I think if Bo Bichette, like you look at his play, you look at Kyle Tucker's play, if you are self-aware, if you are confident in yourself, I think you've got to be okay with other players around the league getting big amounts of money. Maybe other teams prioritizing other players. It's not like the Toronto Blue Jays have not been talking to Bo Bichette at all. It's been all Kyle Tucker, and they haven't even referenced Bo Bichette, haven't been keeping touch with them, anything like that. Yes, we can agree that there is a priority and was a priority on Kyle Tucker, and I was fully in on that. I think Kyle Tucker is the better baseball player in terms of fit. It was very similar. You could have made both work. Bo Bichette has a clear opening at second base. Kyle Tucker, it's a little bit more murky, at least this season, for outfield, but it's Kyle Tucker. You're going to find a spot for him, and then George Springer is leaving. You have some other options as well. You would have made Kyle Tucker work if that's a crazy enough thing to say. Kyle Tucker will always work with any MLB team. The only issue with waiting this long is that if it's not Bo Bichette, who is it? Yes, it could be Cody Bellinger. I'm not that sold on Cody Bellinger, especially with the money that he's asking for. Maybe he was talking with Kyle Tucker's camp and seeing kind of where he was at, because maybe that's why Cody Bellinger is asking for that amount of money as well. But we've seen now the 10-year, $300 million, at least the $300 million total value of the contract for Bo Bichette. And now you're seeing $240 million over 4 years for Kyle Tucker. I think this team has to be very aggressive now on Bo Bichette. And that was my biggest thing. Is once you miss out on Kyle Tucker, Alex Bregman's already gone as well, you're really left with one option in my mind. And you should now be more inclined to maybe overpay a little bit more for Bo Bichette. Offer him another $10, $20 million, that more than you would have. Another $2 million, $3 million AAV than you would have had previous if Kyle Tucker was still on the board. Or maybe he signed with the Toronto Blue Jays. I think if he signed with the Jays, he probably would have been out on Bo Bichette. But now I think Bo Bichette is the main priority, and really the only priority the Toronto Blue Jays should be having. I think it's Bo Bichette, or honestly, I would be okay with just running it back or running the team out that they have right now, the current roster that they have out, because I don't think any addition, maybe other than a Eugenio Suarez, could really impact this team and give them that upside that they've been desperately looking for this offseason.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, Carter. There are people out there saying, oh, well, if they miss out on Bo Bichette, they have a good team. It's going to be fine. Is that a World Series contending team? I don't know. I think you need an impact bat. I think you need Bo Bichette. I think if you miss out, I don't care. Now you go and offer Bichette whatever it takes to get him to be a Toronto Blue Jay. Because now he's the only guy left to me. And can you go and miss out on him and the impact bat and just be okay with that? As a fan base, are you okay with running it back just with what we have now? Without a Bo Bichette and his impact bat in the lineup? I'm not. I would be livid, Carter, to be honest with you.
Really? You go that far? I don't know if I go that far.
I'd be livid.
I think I think if you didn't get Okamoto, things would have changed. Before I do get into that, though, I did want to bring up the Everydayer Club. We do have this new thing available for you guys. It's ad-free. It gives you guys options to bonus content that we have as well. There's a Discord available, bunch of big things coming with the Everydayer Club. We are going to be a lot more active in our Discord. We're actually purging the old Discord. That was one thing we kind of had some trial and error with. Did not go well the first time. So we'll transfer all of you guys over, hopefully, to the new Discord with the Everydayer Club. But back to the Okamoto, just the lineup in general. If you don't get Bo Bichette this offseason, definitely, I think if you get Bo Bichette, it's an A+ offseason still. I think they had an unbelievable offseason. If you don't get Bo Bichette, it's probably somewhere in the B, maybe a B+. I think B+ is still a fair grade based off what they've done pitching-wise. But you look throughout this order, you're expecting a bounce back from Anthony Santander. You're expecting some regression from George Springer. But I think you can say George Springer can still be a productive bat. You have George Springer. You have Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who everybody knows is a good baseball player. With Anthony Santander in there, you have Alejandro Kirk. You have Ernie Clement. You have Addison Barger. You have Nathan Lucas, who is going to be a bench bat. Okamoto. So you do have a lot of options still on this baseball team. Daulton Varsho can go out there, and he won't give you a lot of average, but he can go out there and hit 20 home runs for your team as well. So maybe you don't have that singular impact bat, but now you got Okamoto. You have the ability for another guy to hit 20 home runs on this team. You don't have necessarily the superstar that you were going for, but I think this lineup is still very well-rounded. I think this would be a top half or top... It would be in the top 15 of offenses. It would be a higher than league average offense. I think easily still at this point. Yes, it sucks not having, that sexy name, but I think this team would still be all right. But now you have to look at, can this team beat the Dodgers? And that's a whole nother story. They got Kyle Tucker. You're losing Bo Bichette still in a sense. That's a tough hill to climb no matter who you add at this point in the offseason.
Carter, to me, it was, you were so close. You needed to, you know what? And if they would have been able to lock down Bo Bichette, and they add Dylan Cease, they add Okamoto, they add all these guys, that makes your team that much better. That is a team that, okay, we've seen them now take a step forward in turn trying to build a better team than that was the 2025 team. And if they get Bo Bichette, I am 100% in. I think they've still done that. I don't think this is a disaster just because it's not Kyle Tucker. But to me, if it's not Kyle Tucker and it's not Bo Bichette, this team hasn't taken that next step to becoming that next better team. Yes, pitching-wise, sure. I'll say that because you get Dylan Cease, who can be an absolute dog, but you still need the bats. We saw how important the big bats and the big moments were, and there's almost nobody better in clutch situations than Bo Bichette. So to me now, pay him whatever it takes. You need Bo Bichette. You cannot miss out again. If Bo Bichette leaves, you will see a probably 10-minute rant from me, or I just will be nonverbal.
I would argue, when we look at the playoffs and we look at kind of how it unfolded, the offense clearly not an issue. They were scoring runs in chunks, 5 runs, 7 runs, 9 runs, multiple games throughout the playoffs where this offense was producing. And what you're trading out is, I will agree, this probably isn't a loss at the end of the day. You're trading out Bo Bichette. If you don't get him, I still hope they do, but you're trading him out for Okamoto. Okamoto definitely is not a slouch. I think he will be a league average hitter at minimum. Maybe has a worse season offensively than Bo Bichette does. Defensively, probably a little bit fairly similar. Maybe Okamoto's a little bit better. It's tough to compare. I haven't watched Okamoto a ton defensively. I'm getting a little bit more incentivized to watch him offensively, especially now that Kyle Tucker's gone. Might need to rely on him a little bit more than we once thought. But just looking at the starting rotation, having Dylan Cease, you still have Bieber, Gausman, Yesavage. You have Cody Ponce as an option. You have Jose Berrios as a bounce-back option. That was the thing that, maybe not in the playoffs as much, but throughout the regular season, starting pitching was a huge problem for the Toronto Blue Jays. And you look at now the bullpen as well, you got to hope that they're in a spot where they can trade at the trade deadline, acquire another bullpen piece. You have Yimi Garcia, who hopefully has a bounce-back season with injuries. Jeff Hoffman, I still rely on. Tyler Rogers is there. You have Louis Varland. You get another guy. Maybe Brayden Fisher takes that step. Maybe Brendan Little becomes serviceable again. I won't say high leverage, but maybe you can actually use him in a game. So I think that pitching-wise, they're in a lot better of a spot. I think that can make up for a lot that Bo Bichette might lose for this team offensively. Again, but still a huge need for Bo Bichette, but I think the pitching will kind of even out the seesaw a little bit, and then the trade deadline will help out a ton as well.
We're forgetting, though, Carter, that how many of these players had career years that realistically might not happen again? That was the point of why you had to go and add an impact bat, because you can't expect Ernie Clement, Nathan Lucas, maybe even Addison Barger to come up. George Springer, you can't rely on all these guys to have the same thing. That's why you needed.
I think Barger will get better. I think like there's a few players in there like George Springer. I don't think will have the same season. Ernie Clement won't be playoff Ernie Clement, but I can expect regular season Ernie Clement from that. Alejandro Kirk I think will be similar. Daulton Varsho maybe less home runs. Hopefully a little bit of a better year. Maybe Vladimir has a better regular season. You expect the Anthony Santander bounce back. So like I said, there's still like these hitters aren't going to just fall off the face of the earth and be bad. Like I don't think Ernie Clement all of a sudden is just going to suck at baseball. I really don't see that happening whatsoever.
I'm not saying that.
So I think you still have 7 or 8 pretty serviceable hitters. Agent Zero is another story, but I think you have another Lathan Lucas can still be a very good player if he's a starter on the Blue Jays or if he's their first bench option. So I do think that the Jays still have a very well-rounded lineup, but there will be times for sure where you're in that big spot. Maybe you're in the 9th inning, maybe it's in the 6th inning, you have bases loaded, and you're in like that 4th spot in the order, and it's Anthony Santander over Bo Bichette. Right now, I could clearly say that I prefer Bo Bichette, but maybe Anthony Santander lights the world on fire next year. So it's tough to say right now. It's tough to predict before the season starts, but there will be a hole for sure in this lineup if the Toronto Blue Jays cannot re-sign Bo Bichette and make him return to this Toronto Blue Jays roster.
Carter, I know you wanted to ask me a little bit about the deferral situation, so we're going to come back right after this short break. We're going to have a little bit of a conversation on maybe what a deferral in this contract could look like, as those haven't been released yet. Maybe they will have been released in the morning. We'll have a discussion on all that. Stay tuned right after this short break. So, Carter, as we continue on, obviously, it's a now wait-and-see game. Right? I think we will see the Bo Bichette market, the Cody Bellinger market pick up and see where those two guys land as well. But we're just waiting on the edge of our seat like we've sort of been doing all offseason, right? I think as Blue Jays fans, if they go out and they get Kyle Tucker, well, I think that's the offseason. Put a bow on it. Good. Now we're in the same boat we just were in of waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Is that the spin zone? We get more offseason now? Kyle Tucker's gone.
I don't want more offseason. I'm sick of the offseason. Give me baseball. No, but in all seriousness, it sucks. It sucks that we're sitting here having to wait for another decision to come down, but that's where we're at. But I know you wanted to talk about deferrals, so I'll throw it over to you to kick things off.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you if you thought Kyle Tucker would have some deferrals in that contract with a 240. That's not my priority, though. My bigger question was what I wanted to ask is in the Bo Bichette contract. In theory, now the Toronto Blue Jays should be able to be a little bit more aggressive, or should at least be more aggressive in their pursuit for Bo Bichette. If it is an 8-year contract, a 10-year contract, not as worried about the term. But say it's at minimum an 8-year contract. Do you expect there to be deferrals? Do you expect there to be maybe some opt-outs for Bo Bichette? Like, what do you think the contract will look like in terms of maybe a no-trade clause, like the additional things that are thrown into these contracts?
To be honest with you, I don't think it's going to be one of those no-trade clauses or opt-out contracts. I think Bo Bichette wants his money. He wants to play. I think he still does want to play with Toronto, so I don't think that's my biggest issue. Deferrals is the biggest question, and it always will be, of where those are baked in, when they start getting paid out, what year, how much per season comes off, and I do think there will be deferrals. So I think on majority of MLB big contracts, I guess, I think there will be deferrals just baked in, because that is going to be the new normal until something else gets implemented here with that lockout in 2027. As much as I'm going to say that a few times now, that's where we're at, which just sucks. But yes, I absolutely think there will be deferrals. And within the Kyle Tucker contract as well, absolutely there's deferred money. You are not paying this man $60 million in his first year. That is just not happening. I can almost guarantee you that.
See, I wanted to check again just to make sure there wasn't an update on deferrals. And so far, we are only about 30 minutes post Kyle Tucker signing, so there still could be some information that's yet to be discovered here, because they did update the opt-outs. I said there was an opt-out after the second year. There's also an opt-out after the third year for Kyle Tucker. You got to believe that has to be deferrals in this Kyle Tucker deal. It just doesn't make any sense if there's not, especially what the Dodgers have been doing with their luxury tax situation. You would think they want to get at least, push back the tax trouble that they might have. Maybe the MLB's reworked where the tax system's a little bit different. Somehow they could benefit in the most Dodger way of all time from maybe a reworking in the MLB's contract negotiations and contract systems. For the Toronto Blue Jays, I expect them to do the same thing. I don't think it will be, half the contract, even at most 25% of it, be a similar thing to the Dylan Cease contract. Say it's a $270 million contract, maybe 40 of that is deferred, 30 of that is deferred. It'll just be a little bit off the top to help make it a little bit more feasible for the Toronto Blue Jays to have contracts like this. Because you'll have Vladimir Guerrero Jr. In theory, you would have Bo Bichette. You'd have a pretty big contract with Dylan Cease. Other than that, you're kind of waiting on a starting pitcher that you might sign in the future. And you kind of have some money coming off the books as well. George Springer will be off the books, Kevin Gausman. So you do have some options. I think you should have some deferrals just with the way that the current contract structures are. I don't think it's necessarily a necessity for the Toronto Blue Jays, though. I think that with Bo Bichette, with the contract and the way it should be structured and their current financial situation, I don't think it would be an issue, but the way contracts are, you might as well just throw them in there at this point.
Yeah, it's one of those things that is ever changing within each sport, right? Some sports, they go through different things. Oh, what becomes popular for this 5-10 year stretch? Deferrals are that thing right now, and they will continue to be. So I would assume that they're going to be in there. Let us know what you guys think on the whole Kyle Tucker situation. What now needs to happen with Bo Bichette? What kind of situation are they in if they miss out on Bo Bichette as well? We want your thoughts and opinions. And please do check out the Locked On Everydayer Club. You can join our team, and you can, interact with us. You get ad-free episodes. You get a Discord, and that's all just for $5 a month. We're not asking you guys to absolutely go and do it, but I know some people, don't love the ad situation when they listen to podcasts. Well, here's your answer to that. It's $5. It's totally up to you guys, but it's there. If you want to join the Discord, it's through the Everydayer Club as well. There will be exclusive content to some extent, and we hope you guys do check it out. A lot more to come from us next week. We need to take this weekend and digest. Maybe a Bo Bichette contract drops, and we can celebrate this weekend. But Carter, anything else before we kick out of here for the day?
Yeah, I'll leave the people with, not a great taste in their mouth to end this Friday episode. The teams that should still be involved with Bo Bichette, that leaves the Philadelphia Phillies. Would suck, but I'd be okay with it. The other three, the Yankees, the Red Sox, and the Blue Jays. So good spot to be in. You got 3 out of 4 chance that Bo Bichette returns to the AL East, barring a mystery team. Have to see what happens with that, but God forbid Bo Bichette goes to the Red Sox or the Yankees. I don't know how I'm going to sleep at night, because that means the Jays once again missed out on multiple big free agents this offseason. Hopefully I'm not speaking that into existence. Hopefully Bo Bichette can still return to the Toronto Blue Jays. Just wanted to say one more time, thank you guys for watching and all the support recently. The pitchers and catchers report the second week of February, so we're approaching that pretty quickly. Excited to have baseball back. The World Baseball Classic is coming up as well. A lot of baseball slowly but surely coming our way. Thank you guys for watching, and we will talk to you guys again on Monday.